Welcome to the Power of Your Voice podcast with your host, Johnny Gorky. You have the power to overcome challenges and fears. Let my voice and the voice of many others show you how to transform these challenges into opportunities. To learn more about future podcasts and read episode show notes, check out my website at www.thepowerofyourvoice.com.
This is episode 47 with Hemma Haridin. She is an author, a healer, and an entrepreneur. She's had a rapid transformation from owning her own accounting franchise to owning an online healing business and living in pure devotion to her calling in service to others. Hemma is certain to inspire many with both her story and what she has created and continues to create now with her growing team. Her radical life changes took place within just a few years due to her faith, her excitement, and her relentlessness will to follow wherever it leads her. In her book, From Homelessness to Healer, she's speaking to the awakened entrepreneur and those who are ready to claim and manifest their birthright on this planet. She describes her own process of spiritual awakening and how she merged her experience of self-realization and self-actualization from the very beginning. It is her intention that the book serves as a guide along your own path to help you accelerate your own journey so that you can experience a true awakening as the pages unfold. Welcome to the Power of Your Voice podcast. It's great to see you here.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. So back in 2010, you were homeless.
Yes.
Yeah, you were homeless. You were living in Queens, New York. Can you share your story about how you went from being homeless to a healer?
Yeah. Okay. So that's a really long story. I don't know how much time we have, but I can condense it. So when I was around 23, there were a series of events that happened, family life, where I couldn't stay where I was staying anymore. And I really didn't have any options. I had just dropped out of college. And I really didn't have any support system, but I couldn't stay. I was staying with family. I couldn't stay there anymore. My only option was to really go into a homeless shelter. So I was married at the time, and my situation with my ex-husband was not stable at all. My daughter was 5 years old. So at that time, that was my only option. So we ended up going into a shelter. And when you have a child, it's more of like a family shelter situation. So I knew that for me, I was always this high achiever, but things began to get so rough after I had my daughter and, trying to juggle everything and stay in school and stay on the path that I was, which was becoming a CPA. Just, it all started to kind of pile on. And, I got to a place where it's like, I felt like I'm back at square one. I couldn't move forward. There was nothing for me to do. So immediately though, after entering the shelter, and I wrote this in the book, my cousin actually sent me a Craigslist ad for a tax preparer position because I was doing taxes on the side. I was studying finance and accounting in school.
While you're homeless?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, so that's just also part of who I am. I didn't want to stay in that situation forever. I knew that at that time I had to get myself out of it completely. And I wasn't going to stop. I was looking for ways to get back into school. I was looking for ways to just restart my career. And so that answer was kind of sent to me. And the magic that happened in that was that the position that she sent me, their location ended up being 5 minutes away from the shelter
nice.
that I was. Yeah. And she sent that to me. It was divine synchronicity because I had no idea where I was going, because when you go to the homeless office, they just put you wherever it is that they have available space. So everything really did align in my life. And I think that was like my first sense of like, there's something bigger, there's something greater, that I have help, I have assistance, and I am being guided. So very quickly, I applied for the manager position, got it. And then very quickly, I ended up running, that franchise owner had about 7 stores. So I ended up running 7 of the stores in that tax season. And I just remember having this spark and this drive of like, if I could run these 7 stores, why can't I do what he's doing? Because it was always a dream of mine to be an entrepreneur, to own my own business. Even at that age, I mean, I feel like I had it in high school, you know, when they ask you, what do you want to do when you get older? I'm like, I just want to own a business. Not sure what kind of business, but I know I just want to own one.
Yeah.
And so the opportunity presented itself for me to own one because they were looking for new franchisees and they had a lot of different avenues that you could get in. So I remember there was this one friend that I would do her taxes for her and her family, and she owned a series of nail salons. And I told her about the opportunity, and she's like, "Oh, you're so good at this. You need to do this. I'll lend you money, and I'll just take a percentage." And I was like, "Okay, so this thing is really happening." And that's how I got started in the first company. To just fast forward a little bit, because there were a lot of trials and tribulations in that, a lot of learning. I expanded to 4 stores. I had to end up selling half of them. I remained with only one. Then I completely had to sell that business. Just, it was too much for me to handle. Also because there was something that was happening inside of me where I was going into this spiritual awakening, or I was just not happy. Like, I was just not happy. Everything that seemed to work in my life, my marriage, my business, it no longer fulfilled me. And so I started looking for something else. And that's when I started to have a meditation practice. And in 2013, that's when my grandfather passed away. And for me, he was very close to me. And when something like that happens, you tend to just, you tend to go deeper. You tend to just want to stop and not continue, you know, on the path that you're on. So that was like my breaking point, and things started to fall apart again. So it's like, went into the shelter, built everything up, got out of that, and then it started to fall apart all over again. But for me, there was this knowing that came with that this time, that everything is going to be okay, that like the universe is on my side, and this is the path that I need to take. So after I sold the companies, that's when I found the healing center. And back then the modality that I used was Thetahealing, and they train you how to use your gifts and your abilities. So things that I thought that you know were weird for me to be experiencing, like in meditation, they were able to help me cultivate those abilities. So that was the start of the healing journey. And that was just about, I would say, in 2016 when that started. So it was a 10-year, I would say completely a 10-year journey, you know, from
a lot.
Yeah, yeah, it's quite a lot. That's not even half the story. I guess the rest is in the book.
Now, I just want to ask you a question, kind of going back into like being homeless, because there are people who are homeless. They watch videos on YouTube. They listen to podcasts. They're looking for something for them to listen to, like, dang, this person has been able to overcome this. And you obviously have, which is just amazing blessing. What kind of advice would you give to somebody who might be listening to this is homeless, or maybe they're very close to being homeless, but like you, they want to start a business and they really don't know what to do? Or maybe, I don't know, maybe in your situation, having your daughter also kind of helped you because it gave you extra motivation, because I'm not just doing this for myself, but dang, I got to take care of my daughter, where maybe someone who doesn't have a child, it's just them. And they're like, well, you know, so
Yeah.
how are you able to do that?
So 2 pieces of advice that I would give. I mean, the first one, use your resources, because even when you are in a shelter, there are resources that are available. There are things with the state that can help you, you know, and for me, that was what really helped. The fact that they were providing the shelter, they were providing the food, you know, there's food stamps and all of these other things out there. Then I could really focus. Like it was like, okay, shelter is there, food is there. Let me focus on what I need to do for myself. Let me learn how to, you know, become better at taxes, whatever. And so the advice that I would give for others is, in that period where you are right now, don't focus on where you are right now. Focus on where you want to be. So if there is some type of passion or talent that is coming through you, or something that you want to study or step into, know that the resources will be there for you, and focus on those resources and utilize those resources. Now, in terms of motivation for me, of course, it was my daughter. But at the same time, you know, I really want to point this out. There were many other mothers in the shelter also that didn't have that same drive or that same motivation or that same passion. It really is a mindset. So you have to build your mindset to knowing your worth and knowing that you deserve better. And don't just give in to the environment that you're in right now, because you're not stuck there forever. It's just something that you're learning. It's a lesson that you're learning. And when you're able to see who you need to be on the other side, then you can use that as motivation. So if you can trust in the knowing that you're meant to be something greater and that you are meant to be that entrepreneur, whatever it is that you see for yourself, know that that is the highest truth. And then let that be your motivator, even when no one else supports you. So that's another thing too. I didn't really have a lot of support. And that was the blessing for me, actually, because I feel like maybe if I had extra support in friends and family, then I would have gotten a little too comfortable, just being 100% on. Yeah. Sometimes we just get too comfortable. And so since I didn't have that, and inside of my heart was like, it's only me. It is only me, and I have to take care of myself, and I have to do what I need to do for myself. That is what allowed me to have that motivation, and that just having that belief in myself, because no one else is going to believe in you until you truly believe in yourself. You may have others that give you that, like, oh, you can do it, it's great, but that's not really going to help you through, because they're not feeling that pain that you're feeling. They're not feeling, especially when we have that entrepreneurial spirit, it's only something that we truly know. Like, that drive is only something that we know. And for others, they may not recognize it unless we do have a lot of entrepreneurs in our circle. Then it's good to see that, and it's good to see. That's why we do these interviews, right? Because we can share that energy with others that don't have those people in their physical spaces. Because for me, I was the only one in my family that had that entrepreneurial drive at that time, and I was doing it on my own. So you just use your knowing that you are worthy of achieving your dreams as the motivation. Like, have that as that deep belief system that you operate from. So that's the big advice.
Yeah, well, and that's the beautiful thing is, like, if you don't grow up with families who are entrepreneurs, you don't have friends who are entrepreneurs, well, it is what it is. But hey, there's podcasts, there's videos, there's thousands of books, there's so many resources. So if you don't know how to do it, there's other people who've probably been in the same situation that you have. They were able to get to where they are because of it, and you're able to do it too. If they can do it, you can do it too.
Exactly. And that's my biggest thing. I'm like, if I could do it, like, anybody can do this, because there's nothing that I feel like makes me special. I know I'm special, right? But I don't feel like there's nothing that I have, like, no magic sauce that's different from anybody else. I feel like we're all at our core, like in our souls, we're all built the same way, with the same energy and the same ability to create the life that we want. We all are, as human beings, as creative beings, we're able to do that. But it does take a little bit to truly tap into that drive and tap into that essence. And that's where you have to overcome that hurdle yourself. And then all the resources will appear. They will. You keep taking yourself through, and through synchronicity, really. I don't know your audience, and I don't know how much they are into, like, law of attraction and things like that. But what I find is that most people that are on this entrepreneurial journey do know that there's this mindset that comes with it. And that you have to think positive and be positive and take positive action to start drawing in even greater resources to you. So my advice would be, like, trust that. Sometimes it doesn't appear right away in the beginning. You kind of have to meet the universe halfway. And then when you get yourself to that halfway point, it will meet you. It will meet you, and it will bring you more of what you want.
I completely agree. One of my big things is, when I was in school, I was struggling. I needed help. And you get to a point in any situation in life, you're just like, I need some help. Put someone out there that can help me. And voila, you have somebody that helps you. It's like, wow, this is amazing. And then your entire life changes, which is just incredible.
And I had a mentor that helped me through a lot. And so that's another thing that I want to mention too. It's like, those people will come, but you have to be willing, because when you're an entrepreneur and that mentor comes into your field, especially if it's a one-on-one person that you're working with, it's the same thing like meeting the universe halfway. You have to meet that person, because they're busy building their business, but they do want to assist you, but you are going to have to give it all that you have, because there's so many people that start and don't finish, and no one really wants to give their energy to that being that's going to start and not finish. They want to make sure that you have what it takes, and you're going to do what it takes for them to assist you. So for anyone that is, like, really calling in that help, like, I just need somebody to help me, because sometimes, podcasts are not enough. Just watching the videos is not enough. Sometimes you need that human interaction, like what are my specific next steps to me? And a video may not be able to tell you that because they don't know you individually. So I know there are so many coaches that are out there and so many business mentors that are out there. What you have to bring to the table is that willingness and that desire to do what's being asked of you.
Yeah, the big thing is responsibility, accountability, and action. Because the truth is, you can listen to all these podcasts, watch all these videos all day long, which is great. But if you don't use any of this stuff, it's not going to serve you well at all.
Mm-hmm. And that's where most people are like, oh, it doesn't work. No, it does. It does work.
The principles. And that's the thing. If you listen to our podcast, even if you just apply one thing, it might change a person's life.
Yeah, that one thing, there's usually that one thing that creates that breakthrough for someone. Like that's their point at the threshold where they're kind of stuck at, and they need to hear that one thing. And for everyone, it's different. For me, and I actually wrote this in the book, when I was speaking to my business mentor, he told me, he was like, money is not what you need. And at that time I was like, I need money for marketing. I need money for advertising. I'm not making any money. And he's like, no, money is not what you need. That's not what you need. And I was like, wait, what does that even mean? And I recognized that no, when you're starting out, you do not need money. What you need is that ability to believe in yourself, that you are going to attract the customers that you need, or the clients, or whatever it is, that you do have the capability and the capacity to run the business that you're asking for when your heart is in it. And then when you do that and you take all of those steps, the money does come in, because what you're doing is you're creating a container for it. So in my process, where I was at that point, and I thought like, okay, I need, $20,000 more for marketing. That wasn't the case. What I had to do was look at my existing system and see how I wasn't implementing in the way that I could be implementing. And then I was able to reevaluate and look at my existing budget and go, okay, you know what? No, I'm putting my energy in the wrong place. Now let me tweak my marketing and do it in this way. And it worked. And it usually always works. Sometimes we're just too scattered. And this is what happens when you become an entrepreneur, because there are so many hats that you have to take on. There are so many roles that you have to start playing that you just become scattered. And this is where like mentorship or these podcasts really come in to help, because they do give you a framework, or someone comes in and gives you advice or where they were on that level. But you already have to be in a place of being willing to be open to receiving new information. Because if I would have sat there in front of the mentor and go, no, you're crazy, this is not true, I wouldn't have been open to receiving that next step for me.
Yeah. And one thing I think really helps out too is to constantly, and especially during this whole COVID-19 thing, is to constantly learn new skill sets. Because it's like, just like you're saying with marketing, oh, I need $20,000 to do marketing. Well, Webs, if you learn how to do marketing yourself, if you bought a couple marketing books on Amazon that were used and you learn how to market yourself, that would save you a lot of money. And you never know, maybe 10 years from now, you might start a marketing company. I mean, you never know. That's why I think it's always good to learn new skills as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's the biggest thing for me. Every step of the way is being willing to learn what I don't know in that moment and what I need to know to take me to the next step. And this is I see this is a predicament that many people are in, especially when they're trying to position themselves as the expert. And that's like a big thing in the business world. Like you have to position yourself as an expert, and they almost take that too seriously, that they're not open to learning, and they're not recognizing that what a true expert is someone that is open to learning and mastering new skills. So it's like you feel like you have to know it all and be it all and have it all to position yourself in the market, but then that blocks you from learning the skill set that you need to learn to actually become that person. Yeah. So it's important to be able to hold both of those states, and that is what allows you to get to the next level in your business and the next level in your life, really.
Well, that's the thing. No one is going to know everything. It's impossible. I don't like to say everything's impossible, but there are a few things. Every single time you think you know something, you realize, well, dang, I just learned something new. Every day we are constantly learning something new. Well, one thing I want to ask too, because I know you didn't grow up with a father. You didn't really spend any time with your mother as well. And for a lot of people, sometimes they look at someone like yourself and these successful people. It's like, yeah, you had a wonderful mom, wonderful dad, people who loved and support you, and they're always there for you. What advice would you give for somebody who doesn't have a mom and dad to support them in anything? And they feel like, well, I don't have a mom, I don't have a dad, and this is just how my life is going to be, but it doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah. Love yourself. That's it. Like, love yourself. Know that the only person that needs to love you the most is you. That really is that advice, because there were moments where I felt like, oh, it would be easier if I just had a dad or a mom that I could just turn to and give me advice. And I didn't have those, I didn't have those. But what I was able to do was just turn to myself and go, okay, this is the situation that you're in, but you still have your back, and you're always going to have your back. In reality, like, that voice in your head is you, right? And so any story that you're telling yourself, you can reverse it and tell yourself a different story. And for me, I always turn into like, okay, so you know what? This is your strength. This is going to be your strength, to be that self-sufficient person and not have to rely on, your parents. And sometimes it's a good thing, because sometimes we want to take a different direction than what our parents want for us. And so sometimes even those that do have parents, it may be even harder, because now they have to break away from that love and that support to come out on their own thing. Yes. So never feel like just because you're in a position where you don't have something that you think somebody else has, don't think that that's what's stopping you from creating what you want to create, because it's not. Because there can be people that have, parents that have trust funds, but then if they go out and they live their dream, their parent is going to cut them off. You never know. So it's like making these stories that if I had a mom, or if I had a dad, or if I had better support, then I could achieve what I want to achieve. That's just a story. You have everything inside of you that you need for you to achieve whatever you want to achieve. And you're going to be your biggest cheerleader. You need to be your biggest cheerleader. You need to be the one that's there for you on those bad days.
Yeah. I mean, if you really think about it, it's like, if you had a mom, dad, and everything, your life would probably be completely different than where it is now. I mean, you may have never wrote books, maybe never got into coaching, and, your life might be completely different.
Yeah, you never know. And so it's like, when you're willing to take that leap and just see what the possibilities are, then you're amazed by the possibilities. Because I look back and I'm like, wow, okay, I didn't see any of this coming, but it's great. But to be able to really heal those wounds, for you to step into who you're meant to become, you do have to heal that pain, because sometimes that pain is what keeps you in that doubt. It keeps you in that position of only feeling the lack, like only feeling what you're lacking, instead of being able to open up to all the possibilities that are available to you. So when you sit there and you go, okay, all of this pain and this trauma has been causing me to act a certain way, let me release that, because I no longer want to be that person. And for me, that was the step into healing, because even though I could have stayed in as a tax franchisee and built a successful company out of that, there was just something in my soul that was like, this is not the direction for you. And when I made that leap to become a healer, which, most people don't even understand what that means, and to take time and explain that, you could explain it in so many different ways. But when I made that leap of traditional business into doing work from my soul's calling, there wasn't a lot of people that understood, and there wasn't a lot of support. And I had to build up a whole new level of confidence. Even though I already had that confidence as an entrepreneur, it was easier to do it in traditional, conventional business. But then to step into my soul's calling, it was a whole other level that I had to grow into. And so when you are on this journey, you will have to continue to grow and to stretch and to learn more about who you are on the deepest levels. That's really what it's about. Entrepreneurship is not about just the money. It's about the freedom, and it's about learning yourself and learning your creativity and opening up to all of those possibilities.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. It's like, especially when you're coaching people, you as a coach, you have to be extremely grounded, because you have people who are very powerful. They're badasses, but they get those nerds that come up. It's like, this is too hard. I quit. I can't do this anymore. And you got to constantly know you can do this. You can do this, but I can't do it. But yes, you can. And then they do it. And it's like, wow, look at you. You're amazing. You can really do it.
Yeah. And that's what brings me joy. I've worked with so many different types of people and I've learned so much. So it's like, even in your practice as a coach or whatever, you're going to continue to learn and grow, and you're going to make your products and your offerings even better from that experience. But you can't ever do that until you start, until you like take that first step and work with that first client. So that's always something that I share, is like, you just need one. Just start with one, because sometimes when we go into business, we think like, oh, we need hundreds of clients and thousands of followers. And no, you don't need any of that. When I started, I didn't even have like Instagram, or I wasn't even on Facebook. It was more like person to person interaction and just helping that one person and creating those referrals, and then you start branching out and doing other things. So it's like, just start with what you know and where you are, and start with one person, and you will be amazed at what gets built from that.
Now, how are you able to do that and overcome that? Because that is a challenge for especially people getting coaching. You get in coaching, you're like, I need a bunch of clients. Now, of course, if you think about it, if you had 1,000 people who called you right now and says, I want you to be my coach, you might say, wow, that's great. I'm going to make tons of money. But you really wouldn't want 1,000 people call you right now and say, I want you to be my coach, because you want to learn about all this kind of stuff. And that's the thing. People starting a podcast, starting coaching, whatever it is, they're like, well, I can't do this because I don't know how to do it. I've never done it before. Most people who've ever done any of this stuff, they've never done it before. You just learn as you go. But if you don't start, nothing's ever going to happen. You just do it. You
Exactly.
figure it on the way.
So for me, I just learned a healing modality, right? I was drawn to this meditation, and when I went to the meditation and I experienced it and I experienced that connection, I was like, this is amazing, and I want to share this with so many people. Like, that was what did it for me. So I know most people find like a coaching company, and I don't know, there's a lot of different ways that you can train, right? There's a lot of different modalities. And if you find that thing that calls to you, then you can use everything that you learn or experience in that to then share with clients. So for me, it was that modality. And I just took the classes to learn how to do it. And in the classes, we get to practice with each other. And people were just telling me like, oh, you're really good at this. And I'm like, I don't even know what I'm doing. But if other people are telling me that I'm good at this, let me just trust that. Yes. Let me trust this. I just kept practicing, and I would do free sessions. And then, one client was like, why are you doing this for free? You should start charging. And I was like, okay, cool. I'm going to start charging. I mean, for me, there was a big thing too around like charging for spirituality. And I talk about that a lot, but we're moving into a new era, and there's no reason why we should hold our gifts back and not charge and not enter that into the entrepreneur arena. It should definitely be entered. So no matter what you think your gift is, you can make money from it, and that's okay. That's one thing that I want to share with people, because a lot of people are giving their coaching sessions away for free or whatever it is, because there is a little bit of like, should I really charge for this? Like, helping another soul, of course you should. Like, this is the way that we should be exchanging our money, and just be okay with that, and know that like that exchange is going to create something greater in both lives. Well, that's a side note.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing though, for some people, it's like they have these issues with money. It's like, I love helping people. I want to help as many people as I can, but I'm not going to charge people $400, $500, $1,000 for coaching, because they have those challenges going back to maybe childhood, those traumas where not having any money, they don't feel like they're worth $500 for a session, or 500 or $1,000, or however amount that is. How are people able to overcome that, you think?
Yeah, so for me, there's the simplest solution. This is what I take a lot of my clients through that are entering that entrepreneurial with their gifts and their abilities. When I went into that healing center, the sessions were $250. The classes were like $500. And that was way out of my price range. I just sold the companies. There was a whole issue with the money coming through from that. But I just knew it was what I needed to do, and coming from the business world, that taking certain business classes and investing in yourself really does help, really does take you to the next level. So I had that already ingrained in me, like, invest in yourself and the results will come. So I did payment plans to take the classes and learn the skills that I needed. And then recognize that, this service truly was valuable. And this is really stepping me into the next level of being able to create more and receive more in my life. So when I immediately started charging $250 for my sessions, and then immediately went into creating these packages that were like $4,000 because I was working with CEOs. And I just knew that it was that same energy exchange of like, what I am going to help you through, you're going to give me $4,000, but what you create in your company is going to be 10 times that. And so this is a great exchange. What I did feel was like, okay, so now I know that my services can also help those that do not have that amount of money. So what can I create to provide for them as well? So simultaneously, you just balance your offering, right? I would have a free women's meditation circle once a month, and then a free open healing circle once a month. I have free meditations on SoundCloud. I have a free course that I'm offering. So it's like you do have your higher end clients and those people that are working on a different level that can create that income exchange with you, and that is going to be beneficial for both people. And then you have your free offerings, that those offerings will then help people get to the next step where they can step up into being able to pay you your fee, which that is so beautiful to see. That's another thing. It's like when you give a free offering to someone and then you get an email and they're like, that helped me so much. And that just helped me break through a barrier. And now I just received the money to take the next step. That is a whole other beautiful feeling. So not coming from a place of lack that, oh, people can't afford it. It's like where they are right now and the version of themselves that are wanting to take to the next step, they need you to create that stretch for them, because that free thing also comes with a sense of comfort. It's like we always want free offerings and this and that, but are we going to really implement it in our life? So that's why I feel like that balance has to happen in your offerings, where you do have a couple of free offerings and you design it in such a way that it really is going to help people get to that next step of wanting to pay and wanting to receive more of what you have to deliver, because then they're going to simultaneously create more income in their life. And that's the way to keep that cycle stretching and expanding. And then in order to keep yourself stretching and expanding, you're also serving those higher end clients. And then that way it's like you're just in this space of creation, and you're in this space of receiving from all directions and giving to those that may not have it right now. And for me, like that helps to resolve any tension that I feel for charging so much. It's just dissolved. So it's like, I know that I have a service out there that can serve everyone and everything, but simultaneously my energy is being met, because I do over deliver. Like this, I just got over. Like I over deliver, and sometimes like I have a group and I'm like, oh, our calls are going to be an hour, and then we end up being on a call for like 4 hours, just because I'm having so much fun in it. But I'm like, no, wait, hold on. We have to keep that balance. We have to keep that balance. And now we're like, okay, we'll just provide replays or whatever. So you just have to play with it, right? See what your offering is. See how you can allow yourself to stretch into all income ranges, and know that you're worthy of receiving what you feel like you need to receive. So when we charge for our programs, I truly feel into like, what is this number that I feel is right for me to receive for this? Like what all of the experience that I have had, and I have spent over $25,000 in training myself in the modality in business. So it's like, I'm going to take all of that I have spent on myself. And I know most coaches have spent the same thing, so you sit there and you go, what business programs have you paid for? What modalities have you paid for? How much have you put into your learning and your growth? Because then you use that amount, and you know that you've invested that much in yourself, and you know that it's going to take your client to invest in themselves as well. And then you feel into what number feels good. And then you just stand in that, like, I know that I can receive that, and trust me, that client will pop up that can give that to you.
The important thing to learn from that is when you're working with a coach, just like you said, you have somebody spend $25,000 or $100,000 and they've worked on themselves for the past 5, 10, 15, 20 years. There's really no difference between that than going to college, going to university. My professor, He has 2 PhDs. He has an MBA. He's worked on himself for the past 15 years. Why is college so expensive? College is expensive because you are being trained by somebody who's been very well educated. They have decades of experience and that kind of thing. It's the same thing, and people would get that. So same thing with, if someone's going to coach with you, realize you've been through this, you live through this. This is something you're very passionate about, and you're making a difference in people's life. And when people understand that, they understand the value. Now, one thing I was going to ask you too is, because I know with some coaches, people struggle with, okay, well, if I'm doing something that's a very low-priced course, or I'm not charging anything, sometimes people don't show up. So like, for example, if you're charging people $4,000, I'm paying $4,000. You better believe I'm going to be at every single meeting.
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing this course for $99, or it's free. Yeah, if I may miss it or two, who cares? It's free anyways, right? Now, how do you get people to make sure that they show up and take responsibility and be accountable?
So this is a beautiful question, because this is something that I just recently experienced in my company as well. So I recently did an interview that there was like this huge inflow. It was like over 100 people that ended up signing up for the free course. And like, that was one of the biggest numbers from one interview that came in. And I was like, wow, okay, this is just very interesting to see. And so we were looking at how many people actually took the next step from that free course from that. And it was really only about 10% of people. And so we reached out, and I say we because I have a team now. We reached out to them individually, and on the software that we use, we could see like what percentage, like how far they've gone through the course. And we're just very curious to know, what people experience in the course, and if what stops them. And so we reach out to them and we ask these questions. And, what we found is like that the person that comes in and takes your course, there will be a knowing that they have within themselves that they need to take the next step with you, that you're the right one for them. And what we have found overall is that out of 100 people that sign up for your free course, 10 people will actually take the next step. And when you start to sit there and ask them questions, you just recognize that they are just more motivated. And some people have told us like, I just move slower and I need to digest this information a little more. And, within a year, I'm going to take the next step and go into your next program. And the way that we do our program is in cohorts. So they'll say, okay, I'm not ready for this cohort. I'm not ready to commit to that, but I know I'm going to do the next one. And then we just give them the next steps, which would be guided meditations or whatever other offering that we have to prepare them to take that next step. So that's another thing that I want to make people aware of. When you're coaching people that come across you, not everybody's going to be ready to take the next step in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they need to sit with your work for a little bit, and don't let that discourage you. It's like, it's exciting to see all the numbers come in, but then you do have to know that like, okay, sometimes they just needed to see your work and receive that free offering. And they just need a little more time in between to then take that next step to the paid offering. So you're not necessarily going to sit there and put your energy towards doubting yourself and like, why didn't everyone sign up? Yes. You're going to put your energy towards the ones that actually did, and I see so many coaches that put their energy on like, oh, my open rates are low, or like my likes are low. And I personally do not look at it. I don't do any of my social media. I have my team that handles all of that, because I don't even want to look at it either, because it's like, those numbers are not going to matter to me. Me delivering my work and me speaking my truth and me doing the videos that I do, that's what matters to me. That's where I'm going to put my energy. I'm not going to focus on those that are not liking it. I'm going to focus on those that are engaging with the material and see what they truly need. So that's my biggest piece of advice with that, is you will know who is ready to take the next step based on the way they engage with your free material. So don't use that lack of response as discouragement, right? Use it to fine tune, because then the ones that are engaging with it, they're going to tell you what worked for them, and you can do more of that. You can deliver more of that.
Very, very well said. Because yeah, the thing is you want to work with the people who actually want the help. These are people who you can support, and just like you were saying. So like if you get 100 people and only 10 people reach out to you and say, "Hey, I want you to coach," that's great, because these are people who actually want to go to the next level. These are people who are completely open and they want to be helped. Versus other people where some people might feel like, well, I really have to force myself to get these people as clients. You probably don't want to work with people like that anyways.
Mm-hmm.
You want to work with people who are open. They're going to listen. They're going to do the work. That's what's very, very important.
Yeah, because you'll find that especially in the way that we do it in cohorts and group work, you'll find that if you have this mixed array in your group where, and it doesn't even have to apply just to a group, this can apply to individual coaching. If you have those that are like ready to go and they're not going to doubt, they're not going to question, they're going to just implement, because you're coaching to help somebody implement something. But then you have to like spend energy on those that have doubts and then sit there and walk them through it a little bit. It changes the dynamic in that group. It changes the momentum. And then even if you're doing it one-on-one, which client you like to work with, right? Which client excites you. When you look at your calendar and the client that it takes more pulling through, and you look at that, and this is true, like this, I know so many coaches that do this, and you look at that client coming up, then you prepare even more like, okay, this person's going to need even more pulling through or whatever, versus that client that's just ready to go. And you look at your calendar and that client session is coming up and you're like, okay, this person's ready to go. This momentum's going to be there. So when you're doing your offerings, really make it clear that you want to work with those beings that are self-motivated, and your work is for those, especially if you're doing one-on-one. Your work is for those that can create that momentum themselves, and that also helps them hold themselves accountable. And we shouldn't be afraid of that. Like, we shouldn't be afraid of saying, like, you have to do the work too. A lot of coaches, this is one thing that I see happening across the board, think that because they are getting paid to work with this client, that they have to do the work for the client. And they subconsciously, and this is something that is very subconscious, take on way more work than they need to take on. And they do not hold that client accountable because they feel like, okay, I'm the one being paid, I have to give extra. And yes, give extra, but still hold that client accountable. And they will appreciate that energy from you. They will appreciate you holding them to that standard.
Yeah, well, and the big thing is too, the clients, they do want results, which is why they need to do the work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they have to do the work, because it's like, oh, you can tell them go do this social media thing or go work on your beliefs, but they actually have to sit there and do it themselves. Now, for our role, it is more about giving them the framework and then being there to support them through the process and following up with them, and then just calling them out, calling them out when they're not doing it. So this just makes it really fun, because for me, what coaching, personal development, spirituality, healing, like what this is all about, is just for all of us to become these greater versions of ourselves, like the versions that we truly want to see in this world. And when it boils down, there are so many people that are unhappy. And what if we were on a planet where everybody was just happy and kind of living their dream? I think this would be a better environment for everybody to live in, and we all agree on that. So it's kind of like, this is why we need to continue what we're doing and expand, whether we're coaches or healers or authors or whatever we are. Let's keep putting the work out there. Let's keep creating these exchanges, because then we're all going to hold each other accountable and be operating at this level where we are in empowerment. And it is all about self-empowerment, and we have to empower ourselves, because there's no like magic bullet, or there's no savior. There's nothing else that's going to come in and help you become who you need to become other than yourself. Exactly. And when you, this is true. It's just not going to happen, right? But the thing is that when you step into that knowing, then like this group of people can come around you, and then you can all have a great time and create together. And for me, that's the world that I want to see. And those are the environments that we need to be in, and that we need to create for other people, because then, depression, anxiety, and all of these other things will just cease to exist. And so for me, that's a motivator, right? Because then you know that the work is not just about you. that there is a greater picture, there is a bigger mission, and you're part of it, and you get to enjoy being part of it, and you get to receive from giving and delivering that service. And we just create a whole new realm, really.
You didn't grow up around a bunch of entrepreneurs. Like, who was like your like, where did you find like your mentor? How did you find that the entrepreneur within yourself?
I feel like I always had it. I feel like I always had that. I tell this, I'm not sure if I put the story in the book, but I laugh because it's such a funny story. I remember my best friend in high school. So we were about 14 or 15 when I met her. She used to love to knit bags. And she would just like knit bags and make it for everybody in the class. And I was like, no, you need to start charging for this. And so I would help her, like, I would do all the like invoicing or whatever for her. Like, okay,
14.
This person, yeah. Yeah. And so that's like my first entrepreneur story. And she has this bag company now, which is amazing. Like, you know, she stopped for a little bit, but now she has this amazing bag company. But we were remembering that story of like, oh, this really started in high school, and of me just telling her you need to charge. So it was something that was always like a part of me. And I know that like so many, especially in this millennial, whatever, Gen Z, X, like all of that, like it's just part of like who we are. Like, we just know we need to do it. But I would say that a big thing that would drive me would be, so I barely got to watch TV when I was young, in the household, but I remember seeing like these shows of like how people were living, and it was like rich lifestyles or whatever. And I'm like,
You're rich and famous.
yeah, like stuff like that. I'm like, okay, where I'm at is not it. There's so much more out there. And just like, how do I get there? And just knowing that it was all about like business, and also even hearing negative belief systems like in my family of like, you know, rich people own businesses and they're destroying the world and stuff. And I'm like, no, but I feel like that's not the way it's supposed to be. I feel like if people like us create businesses, then, you know, that's going to help balance things out. So it was just that knowing from a young child. But when I really took that leap to becoming an entrepreneur, I just went into a franchisee meeting, because I was running the 4 stores. The owner of the company invited me to be at that meeting.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that's what it was. And I was like so fascinated of like, oh my God, these beings are speaking on this level, and like I want to be on this level. And then I just remember just finding that one mentor and like just asking him a lot of questions, and him really seeing the spark inside of me, like, oh, okay, so you're serious about this thing. And that's just how it started. Then after that was when I was like, okay, let me go explore what else is out there, because there was something about that business that was like too forceful and like too driving and not as heart centered as I wanted to be. And then I found a female business coach that was all about like that heart center and bringing that love into your company. It's like what I said earlier, when you're ready to take that step, that person's going to show up, and you just have to meet them and see what they're offering to you and implement what works for you. And then if it doesn't necessarily work, be willing to adjust in the way that feels good for you, and then find someone else. So there's not going to just be one mentor that takes you all the way through. That's another thing. You can have multiple people that you speak to when you're starting out, and you'll know who's the right fit for you.
There are a lot of people who have lots of fears and anxiety, especially with what's going on with this COVID-19. It's challenging for a lot of people. What are some things that you would recommend for people who want to start a business right now?
The main thing that I want to say, fear is not real. Like, fear is not real in in any way. And I can say this confidently because everything that I have done through my entire life is recognizing that the fears were just made up in my head, and that I was just projecting a future reality that did not even exist yet. So the fear is not real. Even if you're afraid of losing money or not having income, that's not real. If you truly have the drive and the desire to create something for yourself, that will and has to be created, but you have to have that conviction. So if you are not at the level where you have that conviction right now, then the best thing to do would be work on yourself. Work on yourself until you come into that level of conviction. And when I say work on yourself, watch those motivational videos, see what your belief systems are, see, what you need to do in order to get your subconscious aligned with your conscious mind, because this subconscious is the thing that kind of can sabotage us. Consciously, we know that we can do all these things, but then those negative thoughts in the subconscious come up. Work on that first. Best way to work on that would be go into meditation. Go into meditation. And if you can't meditate on your own, find a guided meditation. Meditation is not about not having any thoughts. Meditation is about witnessing the thoughts and recognizing what's true and what's not. And what's true is the reaffirming positive thoughts. Those are the truth. Any thought that you have that is doubt or fear or worry is not you in your true nature, and see where it comes from. And being in meditation will help you dissolve and release that anxiety and release that fear. Then you cultivate a new vibration. So it's all about being in that new energy, in that new knowing, in that confidence. And meditation is really going to help you cultivate that, because that was my biggest key in taking the next step. Meditating for at least an hour a day in the morning, an hour in the evening. Even when my daughter was young, I just found the times, like right after I put her to bed, before I went to bed, even if I was exhausted, meditated for 20 minutes. Like, I just made sure that I did it. That's it. Meditation's not going to work if you don't do it.
So you have somebody who's listening, hey, Hemma, this sounds great. I've never meditated in my life. What do I do? What advice?
Great guided meditations on SoundCloud. You could use that. But there are so many, there's so many just song meditations on YouTube. You could start with that. There are so many apps now that are out there. One that I really love is Headspace. And I don't get paid for any of this, but like, I'm just saying, like, these are ones that I know that people use, and you can just see what works for you. You try that app, go on YouTube, type in meditation music, put on your headphones, get a little corner in your room. If you're in a house with a lot of kids and stuff, because I know the reality of these things, right? I would like go sit in my closet and meditate. If sometimes your your daughter just does not vibe, right? Just does not understand. Don't come in the room, right? Even if your partner is there or whatever, I was just like, look, this is my quiet time right now, and I would just go. Granted, at the time the closet was big enough, right, to hold me, so that was great, and just to create that space for yourself. So it's like, does not have to be fancy. Does not have to be fancy at all. If you're a single parent, your child sleeps, right? So just cultivate enough energy that when your child goes to sleep, that you're going to take time for yourself to take a bath or meditate or whatever it is, and have that level of self-care. Because if you keep trying to run around and serve everybody else and not take this time for taking care of yourself, you're going to be burnt out, and you're not going to have the energy to create any type of business. So that foundation of you knowing that taking time for yourself, whether it's meditation or just a bath, because a bath could be meditation, a run could be meditation, anything that puts you in that state of alignment where you feel really good can be a meditation. Does not have to be like sitting cross-legged on a pillow. When I just started to go on runs. And that's it. And I knew that I was getting in a really meditative state. I mean, number one, because I was running like a mile in like 10 minutes, and I like never did that before. And I was like, wait, what's happening to my body right now? Like, I was just in a state, I was just letting go, not thinking about running, and just allowing my body to do what it needed to do. That's how my meditations started. So it doesn't have to start by you sitting in a pillow, because sometimes, and this is a disclaimer, sometimes when you sit, the thoughts get even louder, and you may feel like, oh, now I'm doing meditation wrong. Now all the negative thoughts are coming up. But what is happening is that you are bringing everything that is in that subconscious to your conscious awareness, which is why it's important to have a journal near you, and you just write down what those thoughts are, and you go into deeper inquiry on why these thoughts are coming up. And you allow yourself to breathe. So you can even take in a breathing practice, but it really is just allowing yourself to take deep breaths throughout the day. Like, if you
meditation is, I tell you, it is incredible. I was in California 2 years ago. I have a friend who's a Buddhist monk, And first time I did a meditation, I literally like had an out of body experience, and I became like a bird, and I was like flying over the ocean, and it's just crazy experience. But anyways, he told me, he's like, I had to keep on yelling at you for like 30 minutes for you to wake up. I was like, wow. And don't want to get too much into this discussion about meditation, but why is it that some people, they haven't really meditated and are really able to get into their subconscious and really get in really deep, where some people have a really hard time doing that? Is there a reason for that?
Yeah, I mean, point blank, sometimes some people just don't want to see themselves. They don't want to see their subconscious because there may be a lot in the subconscious. So it is a fear that stops them from looking into the subconscious. They're afraid to see the pain and the trauma that was buried deep into there. And this is just the truth, because a lot of us may not have been born into very beautiful situations. We may have had trauma from early childhood that we just put deep into the subconscious and just forgot about it. So when you start meditation, all of those things will come up, and you want them to come up. This is the thing. Burying them deeper and deeper and deeper is not going to help you. You will stay stuck at the same level in your life. You will for the rest of your life if you don't look at these things. So the key is to just go into meditation and be willing to see it. And when you're willing to see it, when you're willing to connect with that subconscious, then you'll be able to go deep into meditation and connect to the highest truth. So the point of meditation is for you to witness what is in the subconscious, to witness the negative thoughts that are there, because that is just negative programming or limiting beliefs. And once you witness them, then you reaffirm what you want to experience going forward in your life. So those that feel like they can't get there in meditation, just know it's because you're not willing to face it and to see it. And sometimes you may need a facilitator to help you through that process. And that's what healing is. So it's like, this is that other level. Sometimes coaches can do things with your subconscious, but if there's deep pain and trauma, sometimes you need a healer to guide you, and you go to those like monk-like beings that can help you see yourself turning into a bird and like just hold that space for you.
Yeah.
Sometimes we really need to do it. We really need to expand into a space that is kind of crazy for some people to experience. Me, I love being in that place all the time.
Oh my gosh, it's like, wow. It's, well, just to keep the story short, but it's like, imagine you wake up in the morning, you're in California, you look out the window. When you look out the window, probably about 5 feet in front of you, there's a fence, and this red-tailed hawk flies in this fence. And when you look out the window, it's looking the same direction you are, and then it flies away, and you keep on looking out the window. A couple minutes later, the red-tailed hawk flies back. It's sitting on sitting on the fence, and now it's looking you directly in the eyes, and you're looking at its eyes, and every couple of seconds, you can see the hawk's eyes flinch. It's like, wow, it's just staring at you. It's just like very, very cool. And then a couple of minutes later, it flies away. And then my buddy, he calls me on his phone, come outside. I'm outside waiting for you. And when I go outside, he's wearing a t-shirt. I kid you not. He's wearing a shirt with a hawk on it. I'm like, what the heck is this? I wake up, I'm looking at this hawk. It was because a friend of mine asked, so I'm with my sister and her friend. We're staying at an Airbnb, and she's like, hey, can I go take a shower first? I'm like, yeah, go take a shower. I'm like, thank God she woke me up to tell me she was going to take a shower. And then at that moment, I looked out the window because I probably would have never seen this hawk. But it was just so beautiful how all this led up. And then I see my friend outside wearing this hawk on his shirt. I was like, hawk outside, hawk on his shirt. And then we go outside to the beach, and then there's a couple hawks. And then I see a hawk, and then I like somehow become one. I was like, it sounds crazy, but it really happened. It's like, yeah. Wow.
That's the divine synchronicity that I was talking about in the beginning. And that's the magic that happens when you let the universe like dance and create with you. And that's really the thing that's going to take you out the fear. We were talking about the fears, and like, that's not, the fears are not real. These magical experiences are real. It's just that what happens is that they tend to exist on the same place. Like the fear exists in the subconscious, and the magical experience exists in the subconscious as well. So it's like, if you have too much fear, you're not going to access that magical experience. But when you recognize that the fear is not real, but that magical experience, which is something that can help you create, because it gives you this new sense of wonder and magic and amazement in your life. And like, that gives you the juice, to
Oh
keep
yeah,
going. It really does.
it's really incredible. I definitely recommend for anybody meditate. It is really, really cool. Now, for some people who are interested in, like, how do you find your higher self?
Meditation.
Yes, that's one.
So one thing, especially just speaking to your audience, your higher self is always with you, and it has always been with you. The higher self is that voice that's telling you everything is possible and you can do it. Now, so there's nothing that you need to find. What you need to do is have faith in that higher self and have trust in that voice that's telling you everything is possible, and listen to its guidance. So what happens is we may hear the guidance of higher self and then be so afraid that we don't take that guidance and we don't take action on it. So for me, it started especially, being in the shelter, not even knowing what higher self was. I only came into my spiritual awakening a few years ago, but I listened when it said, talk to your friend about opening the business. Instead of being afraid, I listened when it said, okay, now you need to leave your husband, like, just because this is not working for you. Like, I just listened to that knowing, and that higher self is the intuition. It is the knowing, and every single person has it. Every person has it. Every single human being on this earth has that intuition and has that higher self, except it's going to take a lot of faith to trust it and believe it and allow it to guide you. And that's my biggest message, is if you just trust it, because it's you. If you just trust it, then things will align in your life for you to experience all that you want to experience. Don't trust the fear. Most of us are living in a reality where we're trusting the fear, where we think that we're going to lose our jobs or whatever it is. But if you can trust higher self and trust that intuitive knowing that if you listen to the steps that you need to take, which will also be a little scary, but should excite you as well. So when I took the leap, like, okay, now you have to become a healer, now you have to go speak at that event, I was nervous and a little afraid, but then I just was excited at the same time. So I followed that excitement instead. I allowed myself to follow what higher self was saying, like, step up into this challenge, step up into this, and you will open up more opportunities for yourself. So if you're willing to take that journey, that's the journey the higher self is going to take you on, is that journey of you stepping up into becoming that higher self. And then when you allow yourself to just merge with that, and the fear is not in your realm anymore, and I could say, like, in my state, not, especially with everything that is like going on in the world, it does not affect me. It honestly does not affect me. I am able to see what is happening and have deep sympathy, compassion, and knowingness of it. But it's not going to elicit fear and doubt in myself. I know that I can heal myself and I can heal my body. I know that I can protect myself and my family, because we are able to just communicate with our higher selves and just be in that knowing and be in that state. I know that my business is not going to be affected, because there will always be people available for us to exchange. And when you just have that knowing, then you start to create your reality no matter what's happening around you. And that's what merging with your higher self does. It puts you in that fully empowered place of knowing that you are the creator of your reality. So, it does take a little bit of a journey, and that's why I wrote the book, because I just wrote my journey, because it wasn't like woke up one day and then higher self just took care of everything. Yeah. But I did outline the journey, and I did outline my healing journey and the steps that I took to connect in with my chakras and really create that connection, and just to make it real for people, because sometimes it may just seem like these experiences are too psychedelic or unreal, or we're going a little crazy, but you're just tapping into something higher.
Now, well, what are some challenges that you had starting a book? Because, there are a lot of people, hey, I want to write a book. I've always wanted to write a book. I've been wanting to write a book for the past 20, 30, 40, 50 years, and it's going to be a New York Times bestseller. That's possible, but unfortunately, they don't write a book because they've never written a book before. How did you overcome that?
I am not the best one for this advice because that book got written in 4 days.
It's incredible.
I just sat there and it wrote itself basically, because I feel like I am in that place of connection where I don't have any resistance to doing what needs to be done. Right. So what ended up happening that allowed me to create that space was, and I don't think I've ever shared this, the night before I started writing, I started to just have this feeling of like having an asthma attack in my chest. And that was something that I haven't felt in a long time. I've healed myself from asthma and a lot of things. And it started to bring back these memories of the shelter. And I was like, wait, what's happening? Right? Like, hold on. Why are these thoughts coming back up? And when you connect in deeper to see why the thoughts are coming back up, then you see its relevance, you see its importance. And then it was so clear. It's like, you need to start writing a book about this experience. And so I just, like, 3:00 in the morning, after all that happened, I just opened up my computer, and it was like a laptop that we had for 4 years, like nothing crazy fancy, just on Google Docs, and just started typing and started typing and started typing. And then 50 pages were written. And I was like, okay, hold on, wait. So I really am writing a book. And then when I just sat there and accepted I really am writing a book, my daughter was 12 or 13 at the time. She comes in the morning and she looks at me because she's like, I could tell that you've been up all night. Like, what's happening? I was like, you know what, baby girl, I'm writing a book. So can you leave me alone for a couple of days? Like, can you, like, because she was also homeschool at the time. Like, I'm homeschooling her. But she's old enough. I was like, can you make your dinners and your cereals and whatever? I'm going to finish writing this thing. And I just sat there for 4 days. And it was really beautiful because she would like bring me in eggs or something in the morning. Like, I think you need to eat. Like, you're just, typing away. I just didn't let anything stop the process. And I recognized the resistance that came up, especially around like chapter 4 or 5, because when you get halfway through anything, that's where you kind of get like, oh my God, can I really keep going? And that's what with anything in life. And so I knew the book was going to be 9 chapters, because as I started writing, like the outline just started coming to me. And the outline was also based on what I had already been teaching live, so I did have a framework. That's one thing I want to say. I did have a framework for it, but I just allowed myself the space to sit there and just write and just let it come through no matter what. And then when I got to the halfway point, and I felt the resistance coming up, I was like, nope, I just need to get up and take a shower, because it had been like 2 days. I didn't take a shower, just like sitting there writing. And I'm just being like so completely real. Like, I didn't take a shower, nothing. And I was like, okay, let me take a shower, took a shower, and then just like went for a run and was like, I'm finishing this. And I'm going to share this with the world, because it was also very personal. Everything that is in the book is like my personal story, like to the detail. And I share that because I want people to understand that you do not become disconnected from reality when you're stepping into your higher self. Like, there is an entire process that allows you to see your journey, release the pain, and step into that new version and still be connected to all that you are. Because most people don't take that leap into spirituality because they're like, you're ungrounded, you're crazy, this is weird, and I really wanted to bridge that. And halfway through, I was like, this needs to be done. People need to know how easy it is to recognize yourself as a spiritual being and still be a human being. There's no difference. But what the message was in the book was like, be willing to do the work, be willing to go through that process that it takes to merge your higher self and all that you are in this human body. And there was a little bit of resistance. I'm like, are people ready for this work? And all of those things did come up, but I just knew that my truth had to be shared, right? I just knew that if I'm writing this for a reason, and I'm not going to stop. So I just didn't stop. And then 4 days, It was done.
Well, and that's the thing. A lot of times people get these brilliant ideas. Why did I think about that? I don't have time for that. And then It's that book that they were going to write for 4 days. They were going to stay up, and they just didn't do anything with it. And that's why, yeah, I like when you come up with a great idea, write it down, wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, sit at the desk for two days, don't take a shower, but work. Because I mean, that is when your mind is really, really thinking. It's like those thoughts. I mean, it's very real, very raw.
And it's like anything that comes up that does not reaffirm your genius, it's just resistance. So don't listen to the resistance. That's it. Like you, and this is another thing. We need to all own the fact that we are just geniuses. Like it doesn't, we are geniuses. It doesn't matter what the idea is or what the thought is. Like you have that brilliance inside of you. And if you have an idea, just know that the world needs it. Know that what we need in this world right now are solutions. We need solutions. And if we just stop ourselves, if we allow the resistance to stop us, that, for me, that's like the saddest thing ever. You don't allow that brilliance to come through, and then your soul's going to have to incarnate again. You know, it's going to have to come through at some point.
And that childhood trauma for a lot of people. I know that was my big thing. It's like sometimes you grow up, you have parents, brothers, sisters, siblings, friends. Mine was my father. He used to stutter really bad. I stutter. I have two boys who stutter. But when I was a kid, I used to see my father. He used to take his hand and he used to punch himself in the head and just said he was stupid and dumb and worthless, and he completely hated himself. Well, apparently when he was a child, his mom and dad thought he was stupid. His mom completely hated him. And other people, they've gone through these same experiences, and they just see what their parents do. And because their parents think that they're dumb and stupid, and they see this kind of stuff, then they grow up to become adults who think they're dumb and stupid, and they're not. But because of something they witnessed, that trauma, they start thinking that stuff is, you're not dumb and stupid. You're not. You're very smart. You're a genius, like you said. And I remember when I had therapy, when I went to college, I was a C student, and I just thought I was a C student because I was just dumb and stupid. And, I'm just like my dad, dumb and stupid. And my therapist's like, dude, you're a genius. I'm like, don't mean to be rude, but you're full of shit, man. I'm not a genius. I'm like, dude, he's like, you're smart. You're a genius. I'm like, you're pissing me off. I'm not a genius. I'm stupid. I'm not stupid, but I'm like average. He's like, dude, you're a genius. But it's like we fight people when they say you're smart when you're a genius because of these beliefs that we have as children. And then once you finally realize, dang, I am smart. I'm a genius. Okay. It's very challenging because you go through this for 20, 30, 40 years. Some people until they're 70 years old, and you can realize, wow, you really are smart. And once you believe it, when you finally believe it, it's incredible. It really, really is incredible.
It's an amazing thing. And I feel like that's why people like us just need to share these stories, because other people need to hear it. I mean, when I was starting on my spiritual journey, I would make all these crazy notes in my journal, and like all this information would come through, and I'm like, I don't even know what this means. There would be like a lot of drawings and circles and math and like whatever, and like it just was gibberish, right? For me it was gibberish, but then I could just feel it, that it meant something. And then I just had the courage. I'm like, I'm just going to post these pictures on my Instagram of my journal, and when I posted them, people would comment and go, oh my God, I was feeling or seeing the same thing. And it was like, whoa. Whoa, so it's not just me. And they would go, oh, okay, can you give me advice on this? And can you give me advice on that? And for me, that's how I recognize, like, oh, okay, so this is not crazy. This is not stupid. Like, this is something that a lot of people are experiencing, but we kind of just need to share it and like share these experiences so that we don't feel like we're sitting there going crazy. And that's especially like the genius syndrome. It's like you either share your work and do it, or you sit there and you doubt yourself and go crazy, and there's like a lot of, in the past, authors or writers or whatever, and it kind of just went crazy because there was no outlet for the acceptance of that genius. And it's like when you tap into your soul and your higher self, and you see this blueprint for your life, and I don't want to, go too deep on that, but we all have that. You recognize that it's so unique, and it's something that the world has never experienced before. And you just need to have the confidence to bring it forward, because it is going to be something that is brand new. And each of us are here to bring something that is brand new, or else you wouldn't have come here, like to experience the same thing that everybody else is experiencing. But you do have to overcome any conditioning that was imposed upon you. And this is how we create those new sacred spaces for the new generations. Because, me going through a similar thing, like, I remember like a family member used to be like, "You stupid kid, you stupid," like just and just like having those words like in my head. I'll never tell my daughter. I'll never speak to her in that way. I will affirm her genius and her beauty and all her ideas, and I will give her that confidence that she needs to have to do what she needs to do. So we are creating that next generation. Like we're dissolving all those limitations and those limiting beliefs. And so for me, I personally take it as like my duty to share that, knowing that we need to release all of these things and we need to create better belief systems for our children so that the world can keep expanding in that way.
Yeah, well, the big thing is a lot of times parents don't realize they're conditioning their child. So one thing that's very popular for people to do is they tell their child they're shy. So it's like, how many people remember when they were a child, somebody says, "Oh, they don't talk a lot, they're shy." And I remember, so I have a 20-month-old daughter, a 7 and 10-year-old son. And I remember one day I was picking up my oldest son from his taekwondo, and somebody's like, "He doesn't talk a lot." And then somebody's like, "Oh, he's shy." I'm like, no, he's shy. He's not shy. He just doesn't want to say anything. Because what people don't realize is saying you're shy, you get older and then people are like, "Why don't you talk?" "Oh, I'm shy." You don't talk a lot, do you?" "Oh, you're shy." "Oh, I'm shy. I'm shy." And you keep on saying it, and these are the excuses. Or, "Why don't you talk?" "I stutter. And what you don't realize, by you keep on saying you stutter, it's probably gonna get worse. It's not gonna get better. So you gotta be very careful what you say.
Yeah, you're reaffirming that program, which may not be the highest truth. And, one thing that I see going around, especially like now, everybody's like, "Oh, I'm an introvert or extrovert." Like, what does that even mean? Like, why are you labeling that you're one way or another? So for me, it's very interesting because like I can sit in my house and just meditate and be by myself. And I actually did isolate for like a year or two and not talk to anybody but I wouldn't call myself being an introvert. Like, I love to do these interviews and I love to go speak on stages and do all of that. I also love to be by myself in my room reading or in meditation. So it's like, why do we have to impose these labels that limit us to just being one way? So all of that, like, just recognize, I feel like that's the first step. And we were talking about, doing personal development work or doing inner work. See what labels were imposed upon you, and then see how that's not true. See how you can do multiple things at once and you can be a multifaceted, and I always use the word multidimensional being. You're not just stuck to being limited in one way.
Yeah, well, people have a lot of these beliefs and all this stuff. It's instilled in you as a child, and a lot of times we're not even aware of this stuff.
Yeah, and that's what healing work, meditation, all of that is there for, is to help us really uncover. And coaching, there are so many avenues now of personal development that we're able to connect with, whether it's online through video or directly with a coach or a healer or a person. Like, these resources are there. So when you recognize that there are these voices in your head that are telling you that things that are not true, and you need to dive a little deeper and clear that, the resources are there. And there is so much help out there to assist you in that process.
Now, for somebody who's interested in working with the coach, like somebody might be listening right now, I can't do this on my own. I need some help. I need support. How do you find a good coach? How do you know if someone's a good coach for somebody? Because someone might be a great fit for you. Maybe they're not. Maybe they need to work with a guy. Maybe they don't. We don't know. But how does somebody know when somebody would be a good fit for them?
So that answer is so simple. It's intuitive. Follow your intuition, right? When you listen to a podcast, right? So just like people are listening to us right now, and you resonate, like something gets lit up in your stomach or in your heart, and like there's just that knowing that you get excited, that you resonate with these people, like there's something that they're saying that makes you feel really good. Follow that. It could be a video that they have on YouTube, or it could even be, a recommendation that a friend makes to you, like, hey, I think you should meet this person. And then you set up a call with them and you'll just know right away. Like, say you set up a call with that person and you're like, I don't feel like we clicked. Okay, that person's not the one for you. But then when you get on the phone with someone and like you're just having that spark and you're being lit up, that's the person for you. Like when you feel that spark and you feel that connection, and we all know what that feels like I don't want anybody to deny that. We all know what that feels like. You follow that. Then one thing that I am going to point out is after you have that initial spark and that initial connection, then a little bit of doubt might come up, like, oh my God, can I really do this? That's just the resistance. And it's like, just remember in that moment that you have to follow the excitement, not the resistance. So the initial excitement will come up, but then the doubt will come up because subconscious knows, like, uh-oh, shit is about to change. Things are about to change, and that, life is going to be different. So be excited for that, because that coach will change your life. And the subconscious will be afraid a little bit initially of that change.
Yeah, I think also too, though, sometimes it's a good idea not to always, because I've worked with some coaches who I'm like, at first I didn't like them. Like, I don't like you. You're a jerk. But it's a good thing, because then, you don't want somebody who's going to be your coach and they're going to be your best friend and you'll be like all cool like that. You want someone who's going to hold you accountable, which is not always going to be your friend, because your friends, they love you. They're not going to do anything, say anything that's going to make you like, wow, doubt yourself or something. But they're like, no, you can do this. You can do this. They really pull you out of your crap.
Mm-hmm. And so I experience that all the time, right? In the beginning, like everybody loves you, but then when you start pulling them through, they're like, oh, can't stand you, you're arrogant. I think that's like one of the biggest things that the biggest feedback, like halfway through a process, when you're really pulling somebody through. But this is where your self-awareness has to come in. And this is where having this practice of, whether it's meditation or just, sitting with yourself and be willing to see what your resistance is. This is where that key comes in. And this is how you know how to choose the right person, because you're going to feel multiple things at once, but underlying it should be that excitement. So it's like, even when you have that coach that like you really don't like, it's like there's just that part of you that still knows, but this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Like, this is what I'm meant to do. And this person's really going to pull me through, and you follow that. And that's how you choose your coach.
Yeah, because the thing is, the work is not supposed to be easy. If it was easy, you wouldn't need any coaching at all. Exactly. So I just want to ask you, I know we're on time, but just want to ask you, like, what are some daily routines that you have that you do every single day that really keeps you grounded?
I laugh at this question because lately my life has not been daily routines. I've been like all over the world and traveling back and forth everywhere. And so there hasn't been routine. But I have to say that when I wake up in the morning, the first thing that I do is, before I even get out of the bed, I just connect back into my heart. Like, I wake up, and usually when people wake up, there's all these thoughts running through. Oh, this is what I have to do today. Oh, I may be late, and blah, blah, blah. The kids, breakfast, the dog, blah, blah, whatever it is. You just stop all of that. You take a few deep breaths in. It's what I do. And then I just connect into my heart. And I just really feel my body, right? Because sometimes we sleep, we go into dream state, things are all weird, and coming back in feels really weird. So I just breathe in, breathe into my body, breathe into my heart, feel into my body, wiggle my toes, feel my toes. Okay, I'm here. We're going to start this day. And then usually what I do is take time within that first maybe hour or two of waking up and doing at least 10-15 minutes of meditation before I start with like any interviews or any calls or anything that has to be done that day, taking that 10 to 15 minutes for meditation. And one thing that I'm starting to add back in, which before I was traveling the world, I used to do daily stretches. And so I'm just adding that back in. So I never really had like a full yoga practice, but stretching the body is like this amazing thing. And I think that's something that's like really simple for everyone to do, that allows you to really connect into your body, because it's important to recognize that sometimes our thoughts can take us out of our body, because your thoughts are just like mental energy. And when there's too much going on mentally, to just be able to connect back into your body and like be focused and be here creates that clarity in your being. So sometimes we're just scattered, and people know like that state, because you're like running around, you forget the keys when you walk out the door, you forget this appointment, you forget that. If you take a few minutes to just meditate, but then come back and stretch and feel into your body, for me, it's like a great thing to keep you really centered and focused here. So those are probably like the two main things.
Oh, those are good. I know what some people do is they do a daily decoration. So like, for example, you say, today I'm going to do 5 podcast interviews. Today I'm going to bring 2 people in my business. I'm going to connect with my kids. I'm going to do this and that. And the thing is, if you don't do that, it's like, I'm going to do whatever today, versus, you set out 10 things that you're going to accomplish. Maybe you only accomplish 7 of them, but that's great because you accomplished 7.